This morning, we begin with the first 100 days of President-elect Joe Biden's term and what it means for the future of the GOP. Republicans will soon face a Democrat in the White House and a base filled with many who are struggling to accept it. Even after the Electoral College made Biden's win official, here's New Jersey voting last week, President Trump and those most loyal to him have indicated they will never accept the loss. And when Congress officially counts the electoral votes on January 6th, a few Republican lawmakers say they'll object to the results. Meantime, President-elect Biden is moving forward with his agenda in his first 100 days. He says he will plan to sign an executive order mandating Americans to wear a mask, oversee the injection of 100 million COVID-19 vaccines, and reopen a majority of schools. With me now, local Democratic analyst Eleanor Desi and local Republican analyst Joe Watkins. Great to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Tracy.
All right, let's start with Biden's first 100 days. Like many politicians, he made a lot of promises during the election. You're both familiar with Biden's plan. We've got raising corporate income tax, re-entering the Paris Climate Accord, immigration changes, criminal justice reform, a lot to unpack. So, yes. Eleanor, let's start with you. Give me your take.
Well, I think the first thing that he will do is join the World Health Organization again. This is a very important because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and the Paris Peace Accord. And I think he will actually do the raising up the corporate taxes from 21% to 28%. And the good news is it will not affect any American who makes less than $400,000 a year. And right now, with people, especially in the hospitality industry and students, this is very important. And of course, he did say that right away he would look at reducing the student loans and forgiving $10,000. Those are some of the things that he'll be able to work on quickly. I think some of the things will have to wait a little while because of the pandemic and while getting the vaccines out to Americans.
Joe, you worked in the White House with George H.W. Bush. What do you make of the president-elect's agenda for the first 100 days?
I think it's a good agenda. It's a fairly ambitious agenda. Much of what he'll be able to accomplish is really going to be dependent upon the makeup of the U.S. Senate. So everybody's going to be watching to see what happens in Georgia. Those 2 Senate seats are up, and if they become Democratic Senate seats, and then Joe Biden has the Democratic majority in the Senate that he's looking for, along with Kamala Harris being the president of the Senate as well as vice president, he'll be able to get some things passed. If the Republican Senate stays in place, if those 2 Republicans who are running for re-election in Georgia keep their seats, it'll be harder for him to raise taxes, and he'll meet some resistance on some of the issues that he wants to see moved.
I think it's really important to note that the day after the Electoral College met, that Senator McConnell has now congratulated Joe Biden and is calling him the president-elect. And Joe is absolutely right. Georgia is key. January 5th is now the big date. If the 2 Democrats win, then President Biden will have an easier path to his agenda. But the thing is that we will see on January 5th, because of the Georgia elections, is the Republican Party the party of Lincoln or the party of Trump? If it's the party of Trump, I'm sure that what he is going to do is he's going to be very angry, by the way, that McConnell is calling Joe Biden president-elect. And I spoke to a couple of political operatives in the Republican Party that are working Georgia, and they told me they're very concerned that because of this, that Trump is going to get a little cantankerous and try and make people stay at home, which would take away McConnell's leadership in the Senate.
Joe, you want to talk about that, the sort of changing face and the differences within the Republican Party right now?
Well, that's a point, and I think that it's true. You've got Republicans who are, I guess, classic Republicans, fiscal conservatives. Some of them are socially conservative as well. Some of them are socially more progressive or moderate. But for the most part, President Trump has been the banner leader for the party for the last 4 years. And much depends going forward on what kind of posture he takes as the ex-president. Clearly, he's interested in running for president again in 2024. And in order to do that, have to retain the strong support of his base. And so if that happens, you'll see that he'll be very activist He'll be tweeting. He'll be sending out email messages to Republicans and Democrats alike as a way to stay in the fray. But if the president steps back a little bit, that is, if President Trump steps back a little bit, then you might see the more mainstream Republican Party return.
Moving forward, we talk about Georgia being so important. What will it look like after, in either case? More than just the obvious, that it'll either be very difficult for President-elect Biden to move his agenda items forward, or it'll be more challenging. But talk more and deeper about what the difference will be moving forward.
Well, I think that having Kamala Harris there as the tiebreaker in the Senate, if the two seats become Democrat, it will absolutely advance the agenda that the two of them that Biden and Harris have put forward. But it will actually prioritize, because there are so many things right now. And unfortunately, I think it's a great agenda. It's an ambitious agenda. I think it's an American agenda. The problem is that getting in the way of all of this is COVID-19, because it has caused so many Americans to lose their job. It has caused, right now the emphasis, and we see it on the news every day on NBC, is we have to get that vaccine out. And Tracy, you spoke to somebody, it's telling you we've got to get Americans to take that vaccine. So I think that the agenda is good. And I think the Republican Party, the mainstream Republican Party that Joe talks about, I think they will be on board with this. Everyone wants to see the country back on track. They want to see education reform. They want to see criminal justice reform. They want to see us rejoin the World Health Organization, the Paris Peace Accord. It's very important. There's the old saying, John Donne said, no man is an island. We cannot operate in isolation. We must be part of the world economy. And that's going to be the first thing that we have to do, get back on board.
Joe, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Really, if those two Senate seats in Georgia become Democrat seats, Democrats win, then again, the Democrats have majority control of the Senate. And that means as well that the Republicans control nothing. That the Republicans right now are in the minority in the House of Representatives, and they'll be in the minority in the U.S. Senate, and they won't have the White House. So beginning in 2021, this becomes a time of rebuilding for the Republican Party. And the Republican Party has to figure out, how do we build a majority party? How do we build a coalition of people that's diverse and that share our beliefs in fiscal responsibility? And how do we move the country forward, and how do we win? So the party will be focused on that, and they'll have to rebuild district by district, state by state. They'll have to win those House seats back in 2022, the midterms. They'll have to win back some Senate seats in 2024. I'm sorry, in 2022 as well. And then look to 2024 as a time to try to recapture the White House. That's a tall order.
Yeah. In Pennsylvania, 2022 will become very important, because we will have a U.S. Senate race. Because Senator Toomey is not running again, the Republicans will be working very hard in Pennsylvania to try and keep that, because Senator Casey does not run in 2022. And as Joe said, the governor's race and all those other races in 2022 will become very interesting for the Republican Party. That will be their rebuilding. What it will be for the Democrats is to keep them in place so the 2024 will remain Democratic.
Let's get back to Biden's first 100 days. A lot to get done. Will it get done? Are these just campaign promises that they'll start to do? What kind of impact, besides the obvious, the COVID-19, what kind of impact can we expect to see in the first 100 days? Joe, I'm actually going to start with you.
That's fine. These things are tricky. Think about this. If the Senate remains Republican, they may give President-elect Biden some difficulty with some of his choices, some of his picks for cabinet seats. And they likewise will oppose him. That is, if the Senate is Democrat-Republican, they'll oppose him on some of his legislative items. So that'll be a challenge for him if the Senate remains Republican. If the Senate is Democrat-controlled, then there'll be a burden on President-elect Biden to actually get more of his legislative agenda through. They'll be supposing that because he has the House and the Senate, that there should be no trouble with getting the legislative items that are on his agenda passed into law. So there'll be tremendous pressure on him as the president-elect to fulfill his agenda quickly if the House and the Senate are both Democrat. But he's got an ambitious agenda, and I think these are issues that all Americans want to see dealt with. Certainly climate, the economy, taxes. Republicans don't want to see taxes go up, so they'll oppose President-elect Biden on that. But they want to see infrastructure. There are a lot of issues where there's common interest, and so we'll all be looking to see how the Biden administration does with these.
Right. Eleanor, I'll give you the last word.
There's hope out there. People are feeling positive. And the fact that we now see some senators calling Joe Biden president-elect, I think we're beginning to see some healing. And we absolutely need healing in this country.
You're right, Eleanor. Thank you so much. Democratic analyst Eleanor Desi and Republican analyst Joe Watkins. Good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much,
Thank you,
Tracy.
Tracy.